Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the Podcast Mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Greetings, digital entrepreneurs. You're locked into another riveting episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better. And today we've got a guest who's not just a coach, but a living testament to the bold power of transformation. In 2016, our guest faced a challenging turn of events, a mistake that cost him over $80,000 and dismantled their marketing company. But in the face of adversity, they chose a path less traveled. And then fast forward 8 months after that, they're striding confidently onto a stage, earning a cool $10K for their first professional speaking gig. Today, our guest is on a mission to guide entrepreneurs through a journey of bold transformation, helping them expand their income, become powerful leaders, and savor life to the fullest. If you're craving a taste of living life unlimited, you're in for a treat. Without further ado, let's welcome the man who turned setbacks into stepping stones, Coach Dan Gordon. Dan, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
Phil, and you who are listening right now, congratulations for stepping up, for hitting it hard, and for staring into the fire, staring into the things that you don't want to look at, because that's where the answers are. And I really dig what you're doing, Phil, because clearly that's what your show is all about. I love it.
It is. We want to get down to the nitty gritties, how you started investing in yourself, how you became an entrepreneur. It's these types of conversations that's just like light a fire up under me.
Yeah.
So without further ado, I'm going to do with the first question, Dan. Why did you become an entrepreneur? What was it that just burnt your soul to become one of the many crazies out there?
I am functionally unhireable. In the few jobs that I've had, I was called a loose cannon. I was called unpredictable. I was called a rule breaker, right? All these things. And I never set out to be that. Like, I didn't wake up in the morning and go, hey, screw authority. Like, I'm going to show, like, it just, like, I just did something. I just did the things that I knew was right that would produce results. And it just didn't occur to me that doing so would damage people's egos, would step on their, would demolish the tiny little castle that they lived in. I was just doing great work.
You were just doing great work and apparently being punished for it by being
a
rule breaker, a rebel without a cause. So when did you decide, hey, let's go into this world of entrepreneurship? Like, was there a specific moment, an event that just preceded it, or were you always an entrepreneur, like always starting little side hustles and that?
Yeah, I was working at an ad agency in St. Louis, Missouri, and I was cutting mat boards for a presentation that people were doing. This is in the olden days when you'd print something out and adhere it to a board and show it to the client and go, how about this? And I was cutting this mat board, and I knew it was just so beneath me. Right? I just like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And literally the next day, I walked into the owner's office and said, I just don't think I'm right for this place. And he said, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm not quite sure. But, if I stay here much longer, it's, things are going to get bad. And that was the beginning. And so I started out being a graphic designer and doing that. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to sell. I had no idea how to get clients. I just knew that there was a better life waiting for me. And that better life was doing things on my own and doing things in the way that I thought they were best. And look, it has been just torturous. It's been really rough. But the thing is, in every iteration of my career, and right now I'm going through another one, and in every iteration, I have grown exponentially. I look at the people in the 9-to-5ers, and when they talk about, oh, it's Wednesday, like it's the middle of the week, it's like, holy crap, how can you live that way?
Mm-hmm.
Or like in was that movie Office Space, where the woman says, "Oh, you have a case of the Mondays," and this whole idea that life ends Monday through Friday, and then you pick it up Friday night through Sunday night, and then a couple weeks of vacation a year. Like, people say to me, like my own brother has said, like, "Oh, I can never do what you do. I need stability." I'm like, stability? Like, if you want a raise, you got to go beg somebody. All I got to do is sell more stuff.
It's true.
So it wasn't that I made a decision. I think entrepreneurship was thrust on me.
I like that. I like how even though you had like working in a marketing firm or a marketing agency doing this stuff, it still is a very impressive job, very well-paying job when you're at a certain level. But like you said, you have to pause your life Monday to Friday, unpause it on Friday night, and then live for 2.5 days or 1.5 days because you have to catch up on all the stuff that you have to do on like a Sunday because the week drains you.
Yeah.
I love that you were like, no, I'm going to. It was thrust upon you, but you grabbed it and you ran with it. And even though you had that mistake, I don't want to look at it as a mistake. A learning opportunity, because it's a learning opportunity. Well, like like when that happened, that 80K situation, that learning experience, what was going on in the business and life that made that happen? Because it's an interesting story to have that you came back to it. You came back stronger than ever.
Yeah. So we'll pick this up shortly after I moved to Los Angeles about 20 years ago, right? Okay. And I started a marketing company. Well, I made a couple small films because when you move to Los Angeles, you have to make films or else they throw you out of the city.
That's what I heard. I'm still working on my screenplay to get there.
It's absolutely true. So made a couple small films, really enjoyed it, but realized that, man, the entertainment industry was not for me. And so I started a marketing company because I know how to do marketing. Right? And so I started building this company. It's called the Big Time Group. And I made a big push. Like I just invested everything into it, hired more people. And so this one person that I hired turned out to be a pathological liar. And he was a really good closer because it turns out if you have no compunction about lying or don't care whether or not you're going to follow through on what you say, you can sell anything. So Phil, we were closing business left and right and sideways, and it was awesome. And just the money was pouring in. And then came that sense deep in my gut, like, hold on a second, something feels really wrong here. And then that just spread like cancer. And then it became really clear that this guy was just full of BS. And so I fired him and then had to go back to all of my clients and say, well, I had to look at what we promised and go, look, we can't do this for what I promised. It's going to be, $10, $20, $30,000 more. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. You're fired and we want our money back. Right. So in about a month, and I say it's 80, it was well over 100,000. I was just embarrassed about the money. So let's be honest. It was well over 100K that I lost. I was another 50K in debt and just had what I can only call an emotional breakdown, right? Because everything just came to a screeching halt. No opportunity for income, just no opportunity for really anything. And I just fell down in my living room on the carpet and just snot and tears. And something really fascinating happened in that time. I'm a big believer that we create everything in our lives, right? The good, the bad, and the indifferent. Everything that happens in our lives is part of our own creation. If you're driving down the road and somebody runs a red light and slams into you, there was a part of you that created that, right? And that philosophy for entrepreneurs is how you stay out of victimhood. And staying out of victimhood as an entrepreneur is key. You cannot be successful as an entrepreneur in life and business if you blame circumstances, other people, or just bad luck. What you have to do is say, I created this for the purpose of growth and discovery. I just got to figure out what that growth and discovery is. Right? We never, we're so plugged in these days to like, oh, this person shamed me. Oh, this person disrespected me. We never heard like Gandhi or Dr. King go, and I've been disrespected and it's really painful. And how dare you say, like they were bold, man. They were badass. They just kept moving towards their vision, right? They did not think about the things that people were doing to stop them. They only focused on their vision. And there's so little of that today. So that's the philosophy that I live by. So being on that floor in snot and tears, I knew I had created this and I had to figure out why. And it came to me in a flash. And that was because I hate marketing. I'm just good at it, right? I'm really good at it. I hate it. It was never supposed to be a career. It was just something I could do well. And so I realized that I hired this guy for the purpose of destroying my business, Phil, because I didn't have the courage to quit. I didn't have the courage to walk into a meeting with my employees and go, guess what? You're all fired. This is not for me. Good luck, right? I couldn't do it.
It's also a little selfish if you shut down the company like right away without giving your employees, like a transitional type period.
I know, right?
But also getting the person to blow up your business.
I know, right? Yeah. So
it's a bit of the same thing. You're like, I don't want to fire them, but if someone blows up my business, exactly the same thing, because you didn't know how to close a business or sell the business or anything like that. You were still a young entrepreneur.
Yeah, right. So when it came to me, it was like, okay, so if I don't want to do this, what do I want to do? And what occurred to me, I finally started playing back in my mind the things that people had been saying. And for you who are listening to this right now, you have a tremendous amount of data coming at you from all angles, and you're probably not listening to it because people are telling you who you are. And you're distorting and deleting and filtering this information to just fit with what you think you should be right now. But when you really pay attention, you start hearing it. And what I started paying attention to is remembering that my clients were telling me, like, so when I would onboard a client, I would do this day-long process that I created, this day-long a workshop. And my clients were saying, wow, that works. I mean, like they were crying, and like grown men were breaking down into tears because they were discovering what they're really there for, like all these really cool things. And a couple of clients said, that workshop, like that was the best part of working with you. You're really good at that. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about your SEO now, right? And
okay. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. I don't want to talk about me.
Shit. And so I started playing back these messages in my head. It's like, the reason I'm so good at that is because I spent a decade flying around the country in Europe teaching these intensive 3-day personal development seminars, right? I was a top trainer in this personal development company. The only reason I didn't stick with it because I didn't make enough money, right? For my ego, right? I loved it. It was a good living, but right. So I just went back to that, and I said, okay, great. I'm going to go back into the changing people's lives business, right? I'm going to take what I know about personal development. I'm going to take what I know about business and marketing and business development, and I'm going to smash them together. And I'm going to create a coaching company that is duty bound to bring people into greater consciousness about how they're creating the pain that they're experiencing in their business and resolve it with real tools, like real world tools, real tactical tools, but also the emotional quadrant of where they're stopping themselves. Now, who the hell was going to hire a business coach who just failed at business? I don't know. Right? But I decided this is what I was going to do. And now jumping forward 8 months later, I walk out on stage in Dallas, Texas, being paid $10,000 for my very first speaking gig, right? My very first paid speaking gig. Now, that sounds really exciting, but those 8 months, I wasn't just sitting around eating a sandwich, right? I was doing tremendous transformational work. And what that means is I wiped the whiteboard of my life clean. I wiped clean my complete ego structure about who Dan Gordon is. And I built Coach Dan Gordon from the ground up. Right? Everything that I wanted to be and how I wanted to be, that's what I set my focus on. And I would have nothing else infringe upon that. I even had people who wanted to coach with me. And let's be clear, I was broke. Okay. I had somebody who wanted to coach with me. And I knew that all this guy wanted was for me to like puff him up and tell him how great he was. And I just said, I just don't think I'm the right coach for you. I wish you well. And I hung up the phone like, what did I just do? Like, I need the money. But I wasn't going to start this new venture out of integrity because that's what killed the other one. And so look, if you live life right, your internal justice system will guide you in the direction that you should be. And it's a hell of a thing because it's going to drag you through the mud and the thorns and the barbed wire and all the crap that you don't want to see about yourself. But ultimately, what it will lead you to is the best version of yourself. And fortunately, that's the world and the life I get to live in today.
I love that. I love that. I love the last bit you just said. It drags you through the mud, the barbed wire, the nastiness that you don't want to see in yourself. And that's what investing in yourself is. It's uncovering all that muck that society has put on top of you, reaching it off, going through the barbed wire, like you're going into the core, finding that fire that is you, that is your soul, that is the true nature of you, and bringing it out and protecting it. I love that you're doing that, Dan.
Thanks, brother.
With that great come-ups, like going from a deep, dark despair moment of like, I just crashed my business because I intentionally wanted to crash my business. Not like hindsight's 2020, right? But
yeah, right.
Just crushed your business. You're going to walk on stage for 10,000. That's a huge, jump. Like deep, dark pit to positive. Even if it's a small little hill, like that's still coming out of a deep dark depression, deep dark hole is amazing.
Oh no, you had it right. Depression. Oh yeah,
depression. Okay, good. I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but
no.
It's probably you're 100K in the hole. You're probably feeling a little depressed, a little blue.
I gotta tell you, this one day, I mean, I was living on my couch. There were days I didn't even go to bed. I just would wake up and go to sleep on my couch. And one day I was just, I hadn't showered for a week. I was just a mess. And I was like, I should just get out of my apartment and just go take a walk. It's Southern California. It's always beautiful out, right? So
yeah,
I'm just going to go.
There's beauty everywhere.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to just go and take a walk. I'm walking down Western Avenue. I'm like, I'll go to Starbucks. I'll get a coffee. It's just nice to get some fresh air. And I'm walking over the 10 freeway, and I just look out and I think, yeah, I should jump off this bridge and kill myself. Right. And I thought, well, this going outside thing isn't working. And I went back home and laid down on the couch for another 2 days. Right. So, you gotta let yourself be where you are.
Yeah, I love that. Like you're like, even though I was in the depression, I tried something like going for a walk, like getting the fresh air, getting the sunlight, and then all of a sudden you're like, nope, turn around. That's probably a little too much sunlight for the day.
Yeah, right.
Those dark thoughts are coming back. But I love that. I love that even in your dark days, you tried something to start positive, getting that positive motion going. Once you did that 10K talk, like obviously huge, it must felt like you're a god at this point from before, from the dark days of nearly jumping off onto a freeway. What happened after that? What was like when you walked off stage after giving that speech? Obviously, probably the best speech of your life up until that point. You're walking off that stage. What was going through your mind?
Well, first of all, I got a standing ovation, which was really nice, right? But I found out later that was the first standing ovation this audience or this organization, people in this organization had ever given a speaker. So, right. So I found that out pretty quick. And so, look, in the depths of my despair, I said, I created this. right? I created this problem. I hired this pathological liar for the purpose of destroying my business. So the other side of that you get is that the good things that you create, the good things in your life, you created too, right? It wasn't luck, right? It wasn't that, oh, things just sort of worked out this way, right? It was that I created it. And so what I told myself is that this is who I am. I remember saying, look around, coach. And yeah, I call myself coach, right? Look around because this is who you are. And, these things I'm talking to you about, Phil, I mean, this is not, I'm not reading a script. This is not something I've rehearsed. I mean, yeah, I've told the story before, but I never told the part about the barbed wire and I think, oh, that's kind of interesting. I live in this space of perpetual creation. And it's a hard won space, right? I mean, it is staying focused on what I want to create. So to answer your question, my thoughts were, this is who I am now. And so I get to live in this. And anything that is not this, move away from quickly. And a lot of several relationships ended. Friendships ended, or I guess associations ended. Groups I was in, I left because they didn't fit the new narrative.
I like that. I like that, how you were shedding the old skin, coming off
Yeah.
like if you will, like a reptile, like shedding the skin, molting the skin, coming into a new thing, being able to fly higher, if you will, like molting those old unused wing or feathers to be
Yeah.
able to become the higher flying eagle. With the idea that the show is about investing in yourself, we want to get the audience to invest in themselves, just like you did, to be able to get that standing ovation, which congratulations for being the first standing ovation for this organization.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah.
On top of coming out, like it's like just, yay, I got $10,000. Wait, I was the first ever standing ovation. Like that just builds that mountain coming out of that depression even better. What is one thing that you do, maybe a habit or a conscious thing that you do to help you invest in yourself, that the audience can take and start implementing themselves?
Be perpetually focused on making other people's lives better. So here's what I mean by that. It sounds a bit counterintuitive, right? If you're investing in yourself, what are you doing making other people's lives better, right? Shouldn't they be making your life better? Okay, look, here's the reason that human beings are still walking this planet is because God, the universe, happenstance, whatever you want to call it, gave us this protection mechanism, this desire to thrive and live, to keep this meat puppet thing that we're in alive. And so we are primarily focused on our own survival. And that's why we look, when you merge onto the highway, you don't realize it, but there's 100 different death scenarios that you're running through your mind to protect you from smashing into another car. Right? And so it's like, people will say, oh gosh, Coach Dan, you're so fearless. I'm not fearless. I feel more afraid than I think most people do because I try more new things than most people do. Okay. So you have to understand that you come into every day focused on yourself. And that focus prevents you from being a great leader, from creating great relationships, from building teams. That question, what do I want? Right? What's important to me will betray you almost every time. And so by focusing on making other people's lives better, what you do is you create community. Investing in yourself is only possible in team. Nothing great was created alone. We talked a little bit about Gandhi and Dr. King and Nelson Mandela and Richard Branson. All of these people had amazing teams around them. Like we think of them as these one person against the world type of thing, but they weren't. That's just our stupid narrative. But they created team. They invested themselves in doing great things for other people. Now, let's talk about the people who didn't do that. Jim Jones, David Koresh, right? Cult leaders, people who were great at enrolling people, but their enrollment was for their own benefit, right? They were completely engulfed in their own ego. And so thinking about making other people's lives better is how you create team, is how you draw people in, is how you get people to invest in your vision, right? If you're making a financial investment, you can't take $5 out of your left pocket and put it in your right pocket and expect it to grow.
Really?
Right?
That doesn't work that way?
No.
Dang it.
You have to take that money and you have to put it somewhere else, right? You have to invest yourself. You have to invest that money and learn about these other investment opportunities and what they're all about. Well, it's the same thing with people. People, you can't invest with yourself in yourself by doing it alone. I mean, I have this amazing team of people. Right? And I am so invested in them. My primary investment is that they one day leave Dan Gordon Enterprise and start their own business. Right? That's my greatest hope, is that they learn so much from working with me in that they quit and start their own company. And that would be hard because I've invested a lot of time and money and effort in them, but they are loyal at the yin yang. I can tell you, I mean, they do amazing work for me because they feel how invested I am in them, and that makes them invested in me.
I love what you just said, investing in the employees, investing in the people. They're not employees, they're partners.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Because without them, you're not growing a business. Like you said, you can grow a business by yourself to a certain level, and then you need to hire people. Because if you don't hire people, you are the bottleneck in your business.
Absolutely. In fact, what you just said is so right, Phil. You can only go so far on your own. I would say that you need to start hiring people day 2 of being in business. You get 1 day to work it out on your own. Day 2, you got to bring someone else in, because otherwise you're going to start to create systems and ways of being, of doing everything on your own. And it's going to get harder and harder every day to let your death grip go of the way that you do things. And you're going to it's going to be more and more difficult to train other people, right? The classic solopreneur trope is, if you want something done right, what is it, Phil?
Do it yourself.
Do it yourself. That is the battle cry of someone who is unwilling to self-reflect in what a shitty leader they are. Right? They are unwilling to recognize that they are not doing a good job in training other people to support them. We had a web designer, and I'm still doing marketing, by the way. I know.
You can never let it go.
I can't.
It's the drug that just keeps coming back.
It is. And, look, it's another income stream and blah, 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 blah. But anyway, we had this web design. Actually, we went through a few of them and they just weren't doing what I wanted. And I said to our current one, I said, look, what am I doing wrong here? I keep asking you to do this and it's not getting done. And the 3 other designers wouldn't do it. What am I missing here? And he said, well, you keep giving me stuff on Photoshop, design on Photoshop. I'm like, yeah, that's why I wanted to look. He goes, well, Photoshop and the internet are 2 very different things. You have to use Figma. I'm like, what's Figma? And he showed me this platform that allows me to design something or have someone design it that he can then take and just implement online. Changed everything, right? But I had to ask the question, what am I doing wrong? Not him, me, right? If you want something done right, you have to make sure that you're not screwing it up. And I was screwing it up. And so we have gotten better and better and better at hiring people. And we've gotten so good now that we're launching a company to place people into small businesses, right? So if you need someone to edit your podcasts, we got a guy for that, or a person for that, right? If you need Photoshop work, if you know, like whatever you need, we got it. We have dozens of people that we can draw on now. And so I'm helping, all of my clients, we hook them up with VAs and we manage them. And so we're doing that for other people now.
I love that. I love that from one major failure, you're now sprouting multiple different businesses that can help everybody else. And I love the fact that you went in, what am I doing wrong with your web designer? Because that it changes the perception that you're saying, I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect.
I'm a
Obviously. I didn't want to go that far, but I'll let you say that, Dan. But you notice this is the third web designer, and they're not getting it right.
Yeah.
It's a communication, and you realize it's a communication error. I obviously am not communicating what I want properly, so now I need to ask, and that is something I think you mentioned. Coming back to the beginning, is dropping that ego, rearranging the ego, clearing off the ego, understanding that the ego is something that can hurt you so much as it protects you when you go out against these people who are trying to attack you, and you need to have that ego, that's their shield. But when it comes into your business, these are people who are trying to help you grow. So you have to throw out that ego and be like, okay, I'm failing as a boss. What can I do to make this better? And I love that was brought up and you talked about that, because that's such an important lesson.
Because I'm the common denominator. And you are listening right now. You are the common denominator in your business. You can't say, I keep hiring people and they keep doing a crappy job. It's you. You're doing a poor job of leadership. That's fine. Just get better at leadership. And there's something I call my secret weapon, Phil. I'd love to
please,
share.
Yes, okay? I love secrets and I love secret weapons.
So look, the three silent killers of entrepreneurship are sleep, stress, and productivity. Entrepreneurs do not get enough sleep. You included, Phil. I know it, right?
Oh yeah, they're bags down to here. If I didn't have a makeup routine, it would be horrible.
We have far too much stress. And what's stress? Stress is a sad story that we tell ourselves about the future, right? That we live into. And productivity, like we want to be more productive. So this has been something that I have done my best to get better at. And I tried everything. Like I tried meditation. I suck at that. I tried, all kinds of tools and tricks. And like, I even did microdosing, right? But nothing really worked. And then I found this thing. The solution turned out to be on my phone. And what it is, there is this technology called binaural beats. And what binaural beats are essentially sound waves. So your brain is attracted to sound waves, and your brain can be shifted with sound waves. So binaural beats is a technology that changes the pattern of your brain by shooting these sound waves underneath music. Now, there's a lot of companies that do this, but I found this one called Nucalm, Nucalm. And Nucalm spent 30 years in developing this technology. They're the only one that is patented by the FDA. They're the only ones that have that are class 3 medical device. They're the only ones that's being used by the Army, by Special Forces, by the FBI, by 50 professional sports teams like the NHL and like all these people who have a lot more stress and need more productivity and need more sleep than I do.
Just a little bit, more than the everyday person.
So I started using this. I got a free 7-day trial, and holy moly, almost immediately, right? I use it in the morning when I wake up, and it's like I've had 2 cups of coffee. I'm shot out of a cannon, right? And I listen to it during the day. And then on the flip side, at night, I listen to this other channel on Nucalm, and it puts me right to sleep. Right. It is fantastic. So I called up the company. I talked to Jim Poole. This is, being good at sales, you can get through. And I'm like, Jim, I want to offer this to everybody, and I said, your little week-long free trial ended. I want you to give me one. and I want to share it with everybody. And he's like, all right, sure. And so you got to try this. You who are listening right now. All right. And to get it, just text the word calm, CALM, to this number, 213-409-8366, 213-409-8366, and text the word calm, CALM. Improve your productivity, get more sleep, reduce your stress. You're going to just be freaking amazed. 213-409-8366. Get a free week of New Calm. If you want to continue it, I would. I mean, I do. And it's really amazing, but try it for a week. You have nothing to lose. All of my clients use it. My entire family uses it. I use it. It's just, I mean, I'm telling people about this, on trains and buses and in line at the grocery store. It's really amazing.
I'm definitely going to be trying that out because that sounds great. Just the sleep aspect. I think I'm going to use it just
right?
aspect, right? Catch up on that sleep. Of course, show notes will have the phone number and what the secret word calm to text. But Dad, my God, you have been a reservoir of knowledge and inspiration for not only myself but the audience. I just love this conversation. I had no idea where it was going, and it went exactly where it should have gone, and it was a definite investment in myself. Before we go, because we are coming to the end, which I hate, I have one last question. I have 10-year-old Dan right beside me. He won't stop running. He's just been running around, a lot of energy.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. What is one piece of advice you would want to pass back to your 10-year-old self?
Take up boxing. I took up boxing in my early 50s, and I learned so much in boxing. And what I learned, but I'm a terrible boxer, right? But what I learned is that staying in the fight is how you get better. So my coach kept telling me, he was this little guy. He's like, you have longer reach than me. You have longer, but I got it in my head that I couldn't beat him. Like I couldn't land one on him. And then what would happen? He'd be like, bong, ping, bam, I'm getting hit in the head. And it's really uncomfortable to get hit in the head. And so I kept like pulling back. And finally I just said, I'm going to just stay in this. I'm just going to stay in. I'm just going to let myself get punched. It's not like it was like terribly painful. It was just uncomfortable. And so this one day he's like, bomb, pam, bang. And then I notice like he goes for a right cross, and I lean back ever so slightly, and he just misses me, and he's open. If you're listening, you can't see this, but like, I'm just put your arm around, underneath. So he's completely open. I thought, oh, I could punch him right now. I'm like, oh, I should do that. And he's like, bam. And I laid him out, right? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. He goes, no, that was great. And so what I learned is to stay in it. Just stay in the discomfort. And so that's what I would tell my younger self. Whatever is uncomfortable, stay in it, because you get a gift. And the gift I got that day was recognizing that it's not pain, it's just discomfort. It's a sense your ego mind is going to try to get you back to a comfortable space, but you're going to learn more being in discomfort than you ever will in comfort. And the other thing I learned is that the first person who gets angry in a fight is a person who loses. And I thought like, oh, this Rocky thing, you get angry, you go in there. But no, when you get angry, what happens? Your respiration increases, your heart rate increases, you get flooded with adrenaline. You can't think straight, right? It was the fact that I could just look at him and go, I should punch him in the head. And I did, right? I was relaxed. So that's it.
I love that. I think that's some great advice. For your 10-year-old self, like just stay in the fight, but also like boxing will teach you to be resilient, take those hits and be like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but I can do it. And then all of a sudden you see that opening and knockout.
There it is.
I love it. I love it. Dan, I'm going to jump off stage here. I want you to tell my audience how they can connect with you if they're looking to go to the next level and become a better version of themselves. So the floor is yours.
Okay, I got two things that you can do. One, selling. You got to get better at selling. So anything that you struggle with in life or business shows up in a sales interaction. Don't be a douche. In fact, I'm launching a program called No Douchebag Selling. But the thing I want you to do, I want to give you something for free to help you with sales. And so download my ebook, The 10 Tools to Selling Authentically, and just text the word sales, SALES, to that same number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text the word sales, SALES, to 213-409-8366. And if you want to hook up with me, connect with me. I didn't mean hook up that way. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just do a search for Coach Dan Gordon and say, hey, I heard all about you on investing in yourself, and tell me about you. And of course, you can go to dangordonenterprise.com. Just do a Google search for Coach Dan Gordon, and everything Dan Gordon Enterprise will show up.
Awesome. Dan, I can't thank you enough for being here. It was a pleasure chatting with you and hearing your story and the wisdom that you shared with us.
It's been just such a treat. And look, I'm going on record right now. I just popped in the chat. I want you to come on my show for badass entrepreneurs only. So if you would please click that link, because I've been doing a tremendous amount of talking, Phil. I got to learn about you, man. I got a lot of questions.
I'm excited. I just clicked on the link. I'll definitely pick up a time after this interview. Dan, I can't thank you enough. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below. They'll have the numbers plus the secret codes, COM and sales, so that you can get the free ebook and that 7-day trial to the binaural beats. And remember to, again, always invest in yourself.